It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling. Come and join us for another ride in the team bus. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on professional bike races, teams, riders, and all sorts of cycling-related stories. And we might just sprinkle in some other shiny pop cultural objects along the way. So jump in the saddle and tighten up those shoes. The road awaits. Allez!
Hello and welcome to the Team Bus. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today on the bus we're rolling the clocks back to 2021 for a look at the 2020 Women's Olympic Road Race. Remember how the Olympics got canceled during COVID? Yeah. During this offseason, we'll be filling in some pro cycling blind spots from the past, and this was one of those races that returned to the chat this year, so to speak, with the wildly unexpected win of Canadian Magdeleine Vallieres at the World Championships in Rwanda. We decided to go back and really look at how this Olympic race panned out and exactly how the practically unknown winner managed to pull it off. And as always, we'll finish out with more adventures in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Hello and welcome to the Team Bus. I'm Matt. I'm here with my brother Justin. It's the off season and we are, kind of scrambling for stuff to talk about on this pro cycling podcast since there's no pros out there really racing bikes to speak of. And so with the win of Magdeleine Vallieres at the World Championships in Kigali, Rwanda this year, we found ourselves talking about the crazy women's Olympic road race from the 2020 Olympics, which took place in 2021 in Tokyo. I just want to mention off the top that we're going to spoil the heck out of this race, which, is kind of unspoilable since it was 4 years ago. But if for any reason you have not seen the 2020 Women's Olympics road race, it is available in its entirety on YouTube. It's like an Australian feed, but in English, commentators talking in English, and it's the entire race start to finish. And it's definitely worth a watch because I went back and I pretty much watched this entire thing. And it was a great race. I'm not the kind of guy that really, remembers every detail from every race in the past. And so I knew it was a surprising race, but that's about all I could remember. I could remember that. And I can remember the person who came in second coming across the finish line. That was about all I could remember from this race. So I thought it'd be fun to go back and watch it. And it sure was for any number of reasons. So, I'm ready to get into it. Were you able to really dig deep? Well, how much,
I watched the whole thing once, and then I kind of watched the last 30 kilometers a second time.
Gotcha.
I struggle with understanding how something like this race happens. I mean, I understand that there's no race radios, but it just seems to me that, ultimately, the big controversy and the big thing that was what made this race so special is that Annemiek van Vleuten, who had been seeking the gold medal, widely touted, somehow does not realize that she had not caught all of the breakaway riders. And the more, after watching it the first time and then now watching it the second time, I actually question it even more than I did after the first watching, because I understand that they don't have race radios, but I don't understand how an entire team could botch this much, that they could not somehow get communicated that you're not making the move. Because she clearly thought she was making the move. Okay. She clearly did not realize that there was another rider still ahead of her, that they had not caught the 3-rider breakaway. And, I don't know if it's the tactics. It's the fact that she wrecked at the 66-ish kilometer mark, and so maybe she's fighting through some personal pain or whatever it is. But it just seems to me like I scratch my head and say, like, you can't necessarily blame her for it. Was there zero communication for 60 kilometers with her? Like, I don't understand how.
It's really interesting. I am right there with you, and that's that is the kind of the thing that I was like hoping to get some kind of like discovery into, and I reckon there may be interview material out there with some of the Dutchies sort of explaining what happened, but it seems almost unforgivable to me because of how long that breakaway was out in front. And it's not like the riders are not getting information. I mean, what's happening in this situation is that the commissaires, the race organization that's out there managing this race and running the race, they do have a radio. That radio is connected to every team car, and the DSs in the team cars are getting the information. So when their riders come back to the car, that's how they get the information. There's also information communicated to the riders directly via a whiteboard on the back of the motorcycle in terms of the time splits. Although at one point, towards the end of the race, Van Vleuten was visibly frustrated as she was unable to like get information from like the camera bike operator, because she was like right there next to the shot. She was very clearly right next to the camera bike, and she was talking and yelling, and she just looked like way like not happy with that situation, and was like calling for her team car.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't recall if the team car had gotten there, but the reason it seems kind of unforgivable to me is because the peloton, for the most part, where her teammates were, her entire team, which we should mention, like how stacked their team was. It was unreal. They had 4 riders: Anna van der Breggen, Annemiek van Vleuten, Marianne Vos, and Demi Vollering. I mean, talk about odds-on favorite, and that's how they raced the race. But for
correct me if I'm wrong, 2 gold medalists in there already, right?
Yeah, well, I believe Van der Breggen was the defending champion. She was wearing number 1. I think she was the one who actually won after Annemiek's debacle in 2016 in Rio, which is another race worth going back and watching. Although if you're an American, it's going to be one of the most heartbreaking things you ever see as a pro cyclist because the poor American was out in front with Annemiek, and then Annemiek crashes, and the American ends up coming 4th, which is the most brutal finishing spot in any Olympic race is 4th. So Annemiek had the gold medal in her hands 5 years ago, 5 years before this race, and it slipped away in that insane crash, which we thought might end her career. And Van der Breggen was in the chase group behind, and was easily the strongest and wins the sprint. So yeah, she was the reigning champion.
And Marianne Vos had won it 4 years prior to that, right?
Had won it before. Yeah, I don't know if it was 4 or 8 before that. But yes, so an absolutely stacked team. And Vos, it looked to me like Vos was there literally as a domestique, like knew it going into it. I mean, before the race even started, she was in the back grabbing water bottles.
Oh, I think Anna van der Breggen the same. I don't think that. I think my understanding of it after watching the entire thing is that they were emptying the tanks for Annemiek to get a gold medal.
I'd agree, and I think given what had happened in the previous Olympics that we just discussed, yes, the fact that Annemiek van Vleuten was absolutely on stellar form at this time.
She was the best climber in the world at this time.
Yeah, so it was kind of a no-brainer, and yeah, they were all in for the win for Annemiek, and so it's not like any one of those 3 other riders on the team would not have been able to get back to the peloton if they dropped back to the team car to get some information or something like that. And the other part of it is just like there's no possible way that they didn't know that there were 3 riders out in front. You know what I'm saying? Like there's absolutely no way that they did not know that, because those riders were out in front
for
for
forever.
80K.
Yeah.
I mean, the breakaway was 5 for a long period of time, and
And it
then
went
they
out
lost.
almost
They lost it.
immediately.
Yeah, and it was over 10 minutes. And it got down to 3 riders. I have to believe that they would have had that information, that the break had, had it was now 3 riders, because it was, as I said, multiple, long time that they were out there as 3. And so to somehow lose track of that, it kind of boggles the mind.
So the first thing that I wondered after watching it was, and this is why I wanted to go back, and you don't really, and I don't know if it's a coverage thing or if it just wasn't clear at the time, but when they caught those riders, and those riders eventually do get swallowed up by the Peloton, does nobody count like, oh, it's only 2 of them? Like,
right.
Like how, like that, to me, it's a gross mismanagement of the resources that you have available to you. It's like, yes, you are limited. Yes, you know that you're going to have these hurdles to overcome, but then to completely, whiff on it just doesn't make any sense to me. Especially,
well, let me throw one thing in
Sure.
there, though. I will give a little bit of forgiveness in that, if this scenario was happening in like a regular race where they were racing for their teams, it wouldn't be, Namibia and South Africa out in the front. You know what I'm saying?
This is
like
true.
like it was 5 unknown riders out in the front. Okay, so that's one thing, because like if it's happening during like a regular race, like they're gonna know, okay, there's an EF out there, and there's a FDJ out there, and there's a, you know what I mean? They're gonna know who the riders are that are out there, and they're gonna,
And their capabilities.
and it's gonna, and not only that, even if it was domestiques on those teams, just the fact that it's those teams that they're so familiar with. I mean, those are the teams that they're always talking about, like all the time, not once every year when they get to the World Championships. So I'll give them a little bit on that it would be a little bit difficult to track who who was out there. But once it was down to an Israel, a Poland, and an Austrian, like I feel like they would have had that information, and like they should have known. Like,
Just,
I'm sure they knew.
they had to have known, considering how far out it was going on. There was so much time for her to be given that information. That's the part that I don't understand. It's like, how do you botch it with the fact that you have so much time to be able to try to figure out and get the information to her? And, it's like, as a team, if the team has a radio, the team has phones, the team has a team car, the team is aware of what's going on in the race, they essentially stopped working. Okay, there's no reason they couldn't have caught her. That's the big part that I think gets kind of lost in the craziness of it, is that she could have been caught. Like, she was struggling. They could have, grouped back up and pushed the Peloton harder, and ended up catching her and swallowing her up, and then making the move like we saw, like we've seen Annemiek do many, many times, where she just, gets that separation at the end and is gone.
Yeah, which she did twice in this race, mind
Yes.
you, which I was surprised that I had not remembered the fact that she actually staged that long distance break that looked like it would be the winning move, and then she got reeled back in.
Yeah.
I had not realized it. No, I agree. Like that's the other part about it, and it seems funny now in light of just like the racing from like the past year or two. Like this would never happen in 2025, where they would let that break get out to 10 minutes. Just wouldn't happen. Like nobody races like that anymore, even if it was a bunch of unknowns.
Did you hear,
I mean, maybe
in the men's race, that they let the break get out to like 15 minutes or something? It was like some crazy number.
Yeah. Just it's wild. Like how quickly the style of how the peloton as a group races has changed so drastically in just a couple of years. I mean, I can't remember many times, if at all, this entire year, men's or women's, where I can remember a 10 plus minute break.
I mean,
You know what I
maybe
mean?
once or twice. I mean,
That used to
very
be all the
seldom.
time in the Tour de France. Back in the day when I was watching Tour de France, 20 years ago or something, that would happen 5 times over the course of the Tour de France.
That's wild.
Like they constantly did that. So um, it's just an interesting confluence of abnormalities that are attached to this race in its particularities that contributed to this big blunder. However, that is not to take away from what Anna Kiesenhofer pulled
No.
off, because I really kind of enjoyed watching it, knowing the outcome and then going back and watching it from the start. I mean, the first time they mentioned Anna Kiesenhofer in this race, it was before the flag had dropped.
Mhm.
She was on the back of the peloton at the very back and not trying to move forward at all during the neutralized section. And at one point, they mentioned, oh, there's Austrian Anna Kiesenhofer, and they didn't mention her name before like the flag had dropped or whatever. And so I'm like kind of keyed into her. I'm like, all right, this is interesting. Like I know she was in the breakaway, and I know she was in the breakaway from very, very early. And yet here she is at the very back of the peloton, and like this race is about to start. And so, as I mentioned, Voss had dropped back and was already getting water bottles before the flag had even dropped. And of course it's Mariana Voss, so they're going to be keyed in on her, and she's the only person not in the peloton at the time, so I'm watching. And so she comes back to the car, she loads up some bottles. They kind of they the shot changes, it goes back, she's back there again, and then she and they show her bridging back up to the peloton to bring the water to her team. And in that shot, you can see that Kiesenhofer has moved to the far left of the peloton, but she's still in the very, very back. She's the farthest left over as she can be against the edge of the road, still in the very back. And then we get a shot where Voss has delivered her water bottles to her team, and she goes back to the car again. And this time, they show her back at the car, and then she's starting to bridge back up, but she hasn't bridged. But in the shot, I'm looking. There's no Kiesenhofer at this point. She is gone, and she was very distinct. She was very easy to distinguish because she had like on a red jersey with like white sleeves.
Yep.
And so now I'm like, oh, interesting. So the shot changes, and now they go to a helicopter shot that is not really zoomed in. You can see the entire peloton and a lot of surrounding area, and they're headed onto this bridge, and the bridge is basically where the actual flag was going to drop. And it appears as though they were not zoomed on the car when the race director dropped the flag. It happened while it was in this helicopter shot, and you see Kiesenhofer in the shot. It's kind of hard to see because they're going across the bridge, and like the big span things of the
Yep.
bridge are kind of obstructing the view, but you see her coming right up the side. And I mean, the second that race has started, she is already straight off the front. And like, wow, that's badass. I mean, she did not have any other teammates. She was one of a large number of riders that it was just one woman. And for her to say to herself, I really think I can win the Olympic gold medal. I really think I can do it. I can do it all by myself. I don't need a team. I'm going up. I know I'm going against like the strongest Olympic team that maybe ever. You know what I mean? Who's fielded a better team for the Olympics ever than those four riders?
And the Belgians had just.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
every great rider of the last 10 years is on these two teams. I mean, it's
Yeah,
unreal. I mean,
it was
you
insane.
have so you have a upstart, Marlon Royce, you have Lotte Kopecky, you've got Demi Vollering, you've got Anna van der Breggen, you've got Annemiek van Vleuten, you've got Marion Voss. I mean,
Eliza Longo, Juliette Labous,
Labous. I mean, it's
all kinds of hitters.
And
Chloe Dygert in her short shorts and pink shoes.
her pink shoes, man. What And you're right. You can't take anything away because she goes out and she does exactly what she has to, and she never relents. She never lets up. Like she
Yeah,
fights
she basically
through the
cooked up a
pain,
plan.
through everything, and
She said my strength is time trialing. She's a former Austrian TT champion,
yes,
or maybe she was the current one.
she
I
was the
can't remember,
current
but
one at the time.
so she's the Austrian TT champion, and she formulates a plan. She sits down and says, if there's a way for me to win this race, how is that going to happen? And the answer is breakaway, as it would be for basically anybody in that situation. She's like, I got to get in the front. So I got to get in the front early. I have to get some people in the break with me. And then we got to really, really, really work together and try to get as far ahead. I mean, this is breakaway mechanics 101. You get a strong group, you work together really, really well, and you stay away to the finish. That's pretty easy. But what she was thinking about, and this I remember from back then and hearing a lot of post-race commentary on it, she knew of these weird idiosyncrasies that the Olympics held. The no radios, et cetera, the difficulty in communication, the fact that everybody's in national kit and not regular team kit. So it's a can be a somewhat confusing situation, let's say, or at least an anomalous, unusual situation. And she said, so I got to execute on the breakaway plan, and I got to hope that some of these anomalies work in my favor, because nobody knows me. That's actually one of my strengths, and to be able to identify
Totally
that,
one of her strengths.
yeah, to be able to identify that, I know that they are not going to take me seriously. I know that I'm going to be given a little bit of leeway, and in the end, I mean, this race is totally different if the peloton says, nah, we'll let them get out to 6 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but by letting them get out to 10 and underestimating the strength of her and really her and the Pole and the Israeli that were with her,
Well, and
they
she
lost it.
she's smart enough to keep them on a string, the whole way. Like she's smart enough to know that like she can't let, like, especially when she was alone by herself, which is one of those places where you could easily get caught. You know what I mean? You could easily get swallowed back up. But she knew to bury herself, especially when she was on the circuit course at the end, like in the F1 track. She definitely like knew to keep pressing, and that's because that's not like you when they got there, that wasn't easy. Like I know that it looks easy because it's situated like a racetrack, but there's uphills, there's downhills in that, there's elevation changes. They're not slight, they're not for long distances, they're not for major heights, but it's enough.
But that kind of riding is hard,
right? Exactly. So she's got the up, the down, the up, the down. The real mistake that the Dutch made was that they didn't press the advantage when they had the opportunity. They just assumed that they were, and you could tell that, and that's the part where it really does give me pause, is like, it seems like the whole team is on that same wrong page. You know what I'm saying? Because they never did press the advantage. Once they thought she was in the lead, that was it. They sat down, they didn't do anything. And
which is
what you would do.
Proper tactics,
right? Exactly.
Proper tactics. You got your rider off the front, you sit in the wheels. You cover attacks, and that's it. She went away at 54.3 kilometers. Annemiek van Vleuten made her first attack, which was nasty, at 54.3 kilometers to go. And
by the way, which is 12 kilometers after she wrecks and has to get back in.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, I give them credit for the coverage on that crash, because there was a heli shot, there was a ground shot from a camera bike on the left, but then there was also a camera bike just to the right of it when it happened, and it took a couple of minutes, but they finally gave you that shot, because from the other motorbike shot, it looked like she face planted, like, because she um the Danish rider went down and was on the ground, and Annemiek was coming right at her. She had a fair bit of time, but when she hit the brakes, her rear wheel locked up, and she wasn't able to like steer around it. That's why she went over her, and then she went straight over the handlebars. And from the one shot, I mean, you just saw her face going straight to the ground. When you finally got the side shot from the other camera bike, you saw that actually she sort of her bike, like being on her bike still sort of slowed her down as she was headed towards the ground, and then she had both arms out, and like her face actually didn't really come close. I don't even think she got any road rash. It didn't even appear. Like she
No,
just kind of like
honestly,
slammed down, got up, took off.
the worst part of the wreck was the fact that her bike got tangled up with the other riders, and they were like had a hard time getting separated.
And she's such a pro that, like, obviously, as we saw, like, she's not going to let something like that phase her. Like, you know, she's here. She's on a mission. She's
No,
on
she
a
had a
5-year freaking
laser
mission.
focus.
Like, no, this is not how my race ends. And she didn't, you know, to her credit, that was not how her race ended. In fact,
No, because
boom,
like
10 kilometers later, she's attacking off the front and dropping the entire peloton in 1 kilometer. I mean, in 1 kilometer, she was gone. Like she had 30 plus seconds on the peloton in a kilometer. Um, and but so at this point, so this is at 54 Ks to go. At this point, Kiesenhofer's still got uh or what was her name? Omer Shapira or Shapira Omer? I think her name is Shapira Omer. She's got Omer and Plikta from Poland still with her. So if you think about it, it's now a 3-on-1. Now, obviously, Annemiek is fresher at this point, because she's been able to sit on the wheels a fair bit. Although I do have to say, I love how attacky the Dutchies were in this race. I mean, they were racing the race as they should have, which was, you know, keep it fast on the front. And I mean, the all four of their riders, not Voss so much, but the other three for sure, were just like rotating through the front. They were omnipresent on the front of the peloton the entire time. Clearly not going quite fast enough because the thing got out to 10. But yeah, so when Annemiek gets away by herself in the chase, it's 3-on-1 essentially, and she is unable to bridge. In fact, I don't even think she ever bridged up to the other two riders that had been a part of the breakaway, the South African and the Namibian. I think Annemiek gets absorbed, and then they get absorbed.
she got absorbed, and then they got absorbed, and that's where I think it happened. Was there? I think that they thought at that point that they had swallowed up everybody in front, maybe with the exception of the three, and then it's later on, because it's never really clear now that I've watched it twice when they swallow everybody back up, but.
Well, Annemiek got caught at 25.5 kilometers to go by Kasia Newadoma, by the way. So that's 25 kilometers. And then it was, and I would say it was within the next couple of kilometers that the other two, the Namibian and the South African, were pulled back in. So they had well over 20 kilometers to try to get some kind of assessment of what was happening in the front, and to get it relayed to the riders. And my guess is that at this point, like, they know that it's all hands on deck. We gotta get this break caught, and caught quickly. And so there was no dropping off the back and going back to the team car for information. You know what I mean? So,
Which probably was the mistake, right?
right.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if like, in these situations, would you ever like send some soigneurs ahead in a car with like a big ass whiteboard to actually like relay information to your riders specifically? Yes, you'd be helping other riders as well, although you could have some kind of code. But like, it's just because that, I mean, it has to be this has to be where this race was lost, because there's no way that they could get that information. And so they knew somebody was out in front. And Annemiek did, when she made her next attack. No, Plikta, the pole had fell off, and Plikta must have been absorbed while Annemiek was back in the bunch, because then Annemiek attacks at the end, but maybe they're just back in the bunch. Plichta gets absorbed, and the word goes around the peloton. They just got the leader, and maybe other riders knew that there were two out there because their team was more on the ball, or somehow, some way, there was other riders who knew and didn't give up the information, or I don't know, but Annemiek sets out again, like once they're onto the speedway, which by the way, like that entrance way into the speedway where you saw like the Fuji Speedway sign, it looked all retro. It was so cool looking with all the metal, and they would go right underneath it. That was very cool.
We'll get to it, but I loved the visuals in this race. I loved the big lake and the snow. I mean, it looked like something out of a National Geographic magazine, like the whole way through.
Mount Fuji. Like anytime you get that crazy shot of Mount Fuji where it's poking out of the clouds, it's like total cloud cover. It's just spectacular. I mean, it really kind of boggles the mind how it happened. Now, giving Kiesenhofer her flowers, she basically spent the entire race in the pain cave. I mean, the second half for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've never seen a rider pulling faces like this woman was pulling faces. She had her tongue hanging out. She was opening her mouth, gasping for air. I mean, like, she was absolutely just on the limit for the entire race, which she knew she had to be. I mean, it's a spectacular achievement when you consider what she did. I mean, it like that kind of discipline and that ability to spend so long in pain and just to keep prolonging that pain. Like,
well, you could see it after the race. She like crumpled to the ground and was just like,
oh yeah, she was just gasping. Yeah, like it was crazy. But what must have been going through her head when it's down to 10 kilometers and she still got 5 minutes or something like that, or
it was like
three and a half minutes, or something. Like there has to have been a period of time in there where she was like right on the edge of hope. You know what I mean? Where she's like, I'm starting to feel like there's a chance here. Like why aren't they closer to me? Like, and then it's like, once you got that in your head, then those 9 kilometers to go to the finish line, it's just looking way closer and way closer when you're like, wait, I still got a big bumper here.
Okay,
like I don't have to ride as fast as I possibly can. I just got to keep it real fast.
You bring up so you brought up a good point earlier about the whiteboard. How do they get into this F1 arena? Okay, and at some point, that's what makes me think that the Dutch team is almost unaware of what's going on. Because if you realize that Annemiek is chasing with 3 minutes, ahead of her, which at that point is going to be very, very hard to close. Once they're on that course, how are they not getting her this information saying, you got to go? Like, you're not alone. Like, how? Like, that's the thing that I don't understand is how does the number 2 rider in this race not know that there's another rider ahead of her? Like,
it was, know what?
Like, what is going on with the race organizers that information isn't getting relayed correctly?
It could be as simple as this. Beginning of the race, breakaway is established. In the very beginning, was it more than 5? I feel like maybe there was.
It was almost up to 10 at one point.
Right, but it was 5 for the most part. But a breakaway of 5 to 10 riders gets away, and no one's heard of any of them. So they know there's just like a breakaway up in the front, and like it's the Olympics. It's chaotic. There's no radios. Like, it's not just like, oh, let me drop back to the car and grab some information. Go back. Oh, thank you for the status update. All right, let me ride back up. Like, it's not that simple. It seems simple, but it's not that simple. And so over the course of the afternoon, yes, they find out, okay, this breakaway it's 5. Like, there's 5 women up there, you know what I mean? And by the time the rest of these riders are getting reeled in, I mean, when the 4 and 5 rider get reeled in, by then, like, the pace was already on. So now you're not just talking about like, you know, stage 3 of a rando 1 week stage race in May. Uh, this is the Olympics. This is for the Olympic gold medal. The shit is hotting up, and like it's nervous, and they're all going really, really hard, right? And this is when like, oh, two more riders get back. Like, so is the minute these two riders get absorbed, is everybody in Peloton going, hey, we just got two of them. Hey, we just got two of it. Like, no, they're maybe trying to let their team know, like with their information, but they're not like shouting it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
And so, and
But
the Dutchies are concerned with
is
like
the moto not telling them there's a gap? That's the part that I guess I don't get.
Yeah, it's wild because the final two that get caught, except for Kiesenhofer, the Israeli and the Pole, they get caught at 4.5 kilometers to go. So we're already on the speedway when those two riders get caught, and
guaranteed
it's right at that same moment.
That's the point where they thought,
yes,
we got everybody.
They just
100%.
didn't think just it was like 2 and 3. They never got the information that the three riders in the breakaway had split.
Yes.
And so when those two came back together, the thought must have just been, we got them. And that's when Annemiek
makes
her second move and crushes it. Only person that really makes an effort at following is our girl, Eliza Longa Borghini, but she's never able to make the bridge. And we all know what happened. Kiesenhofer wins. She can barely lift her arms as she goes across the finish line. You notice that she lifts them up a little bit and drops them, and then finally like gets to the finish line and puts them up. Like just what that woman went through. I mean, that was absolutely like just a
I mean, I feel like
effort.
she was still gasping for air when Annemiek van Vleuten crossed the finish line. well
after like the whole Van Vleuten thing crossing the finish line happened, and then they went back to Kiesenhofer, and she was on the because she didn't flop to the ground immediately when she finished. I don't feel like, but she was on the ground by then. And poor old Annemiek van Vleuten comes across the finish line with the biggest smile on her face. Now she didn't hold her arms up. See, that's also why it's somewhat mysterious how this played out, because it's not like, she could see ELB behind her. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if in her head she is winning, then she knows she's winning by 25 seconds or something. She's winning by a well more than a big enough margin to sit up and savor this Olympic win. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the Olympic gold medal and the prize that she's been chasing for 5 years. If she thinks she's in the front and she looks back and sees Eliza Longa Borghini is not catching her, and that there's the finish line, she's 20 seconds behind, I just won the gold medal. Why doesn't she sit up before the line and just like soak it in and like really do the photo? She zoomed across the line with a smile on her face, and only after she crossed the line did she sit up and throw her hands up. And one could have been convinced that like that was the celebration for second place. Like that would be many other riders in this world, in this race, had they won second place, would have sat up and had a big smile on their face like that. So that part was somewhat mysterious to me.
I feel like it's a testament to how hard the day was. It was extremely hot. I think that they were just all gassed at the end. And I mean, just seeing how Kiesenhofer was, it doesn't surprise me that the best climber in the world is also a little bit gassed at the end. I mean, she definitely put her hands up. She definitely gave some sort of celebratory, pose. But, the real heartbreaking part of that whole thing was they went back to another shot of Kiesenhofer, and then they came back and she was like standing there with, I think with Voss. And you could just see like this horrible realization on her face.
Yes, I have something to say about that. Right. So I thought it was kind of bizarre that because she had no teammates, she was the only Austrian there, like she was just kind of like standing by herself. She's just won the Olympic gold medal. Like nobody around. You see literally in the background, you see like the 4 Dutch riders. They're just like kind of shaking their heads and seeming stunned. And, you get the shot of Annemiek, like I mean, you had to feel for her. I mean, they showed her that when she first came across the finish, she crossed the finish line, put her arms up, and then like you got a shot of her like coming in for her landing and like giving the coach the hug. And it must have been at that moment that he's saying to her,
Yeah, it's not you.
yeah, 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 yeah. You didn't like, oh God, it's so painful to think about. And then you see her face, like they cut the Kiesenhofer and they go back to her and
And
you
it's
see
just
her and
this.
she just looks stunned. Yeah, yeah, just absolutely stunned. Like what? Like really, really brutal. I mean,
Be-
it's
because I'm
the beauty of
sure
the
for her
sport.
in the moment, it's like she's saying the same thing that we are, which is, how does this happen? How do we get to this point? Like,
Right.
what what did we do to screw this up, so bad, considering that, look at all the strength that we had. We had every weapon, every possible thing to be able to not let this happen, and somehow, you know, it comes down to, tactics and just, I don't know, man. And that's the part that really like boggles the mind, is like, was it overconfidence? You know what I mean? Were they just like, yeah, we got this shit. We're the pros. You know what I mean? There's no chance. And you end up in this position where, you are in the silver medal position, you know, and
Yeah. I mean,
it's
at least she
brutal.
got a medal.
Yeah, oh
She
yeah.
didn't finish the race in Rio, but yeah, really, really tough. I mean, to me, a big part of it is just that the strength of the Dutch team, in a way, it worked against them, because the gap got out to that large because nobody else would work at all in the peloton. You know what I'm saying? It was all on them. Yeah, they did they make a blunder by letting it get that large? Yes, they did, but you know, they were not getting any help from anybody in any way, given the makeup of that team. Um, I'll just finish by saying that a big chapeau, hats off to Kiesenhofer for how she did this. She basically DIY'd the thing. I heard an interview with her at like some kind of a press conference or something after this race. Disappointing that there's no like post race interviews in this Olympic
No,
coverage at
no.
all. But I did seek out some an interview of her talking after the race, and like basically like she doesn't have a trainer. She trains herself. She's not like she had a team. This was like some team effort, like Team Austria was there, in the run up to this thing. She was doing it herself. She's coming up with her own nutrition plan,
It looked like she
coming
had
up with her own
a
training
handler.
plan.
It looked like she had
Yeah,
one handler. That was
yeah.
it.
I mean, she devised the race plan herself. Period. Like she didn't sit down with a team or some DS or anything like that. She's just like, nah, here's how I'm going to do it. She's 30 years old. You know, just outstanding,
Race of her
absolutely
life,
incredible,
man.
incredible. She's a good interview too. Her English is pretty good. So if you are interested in seeking out some post race chatter from her, it's pretty rewarding. Um, yeah, I'm glad we did this. It was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great race just to watch,
Oh
even though
yeah.
knowing the finish, just like seeing it play out the way it did was pretty exciting. Um,
Don't miss Beyond the Slipstream, our weekly companion podcast to the Team Bus, our domestique, if you will, dropping every Saturday in your usual podcast feed.
yeah, so you got some news tidbits you want to lead us through?
Sure. So it's not a ton going on. The biggest news this week was that Premier Tech now has another team that they're going to be sponsoring. They are joining forces with Alpecin to become Alpecin Premier Tech.
Quite a
So
referendum on that Israel team, man. Premier Tech pulls out, and then they like weeks later they're like, oh, and by the way, it's not that we wanted out of cycling. We didn't. We just ain't going with you guys.
yes, well, and I mean, it's not a bad team to become a sponsor of. I mean, they're
Not
pretty
at
good.
all. Not at all. Alpecin Premier Tech.
I feel
Yeah,
like
that sounds good. Alpecin Premier Tech.
I feel like it has to give that team a big lift because I'm going to guess that it's going to bring some extra budget dollars with it. You know, so hopefully it works, man. I know that, I mean, that was a team that, you know, I believe that we talked about on the podcast that we were like, how does a team like this struggle to find a second sponsor? And I guess you don't struggle. You just have to have a monster, you know, genocide, you know, promoting team implode and you'll get one.
Guess so.
So look, I think it's good. I think it's good for the team. I think it's good for them. And I think Premier Tech is able to get themselves, you know, out of a bad situation that, you know, was not going to be good. I mean, like, if they would have stayed just as the main sponsor on that team, or at least the main name sponsor, they're still associated with it. It's probably not a good look for their company. It makes all the sense in the world. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Wout Poles, this will be his last year in the Pro Peloton. He has decided to park the bike after the 2026 season. So
a great rider.
He is a great
Wout Poles.
He is a great rider, great domestique. So, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on him this year and kind of take in. This was like, it feels like 2025 was the year of like watching these older, you know, riders retire. We had so many this year, but it'll be bittersweet to watch Wout, the other Wout, throughout the 2026 season, knowing that, you know, it's going to be his last one.
Yeah, he got a Tour de France stage win a year or two ago, a couple years ago.
I think you are correct. I don't think it was last. Right. It definitely wasn't last year, but maybe the year before that. So a lot more is coming out in respect to the Intermarché Lotto merger. One of their DSs went on record to an extent. He didn't want to like throw names, and you know, he didn't throw a ton of shade because he doesn't want to get sued, but apparently Intermarché was 3 million euros in debt, and that they have just been spending like their UAE or Team Visma for the last, you know, 2 years. So much so that like last December they took their entire team, development and all, to like a month-long training camp with 100 people. And you know, it's like, if it's January and they're doing that, it's one thing, but they were doing it in December. And so, but this DS was essentially just, you know, lamenting the fact that, you know, they had done such a good job building this team into, you know, basically from nothing into a perennial Tour de France, you know, attendee and a contender. And that, you know, piss poor management on the part of the team, is essentially what led to the fact that, you know, they needed to, you know, combine, you know, they were obviously, you know, went and merged with Lotto, who also was having, you know, issues, and, you know, that it's not necessarily good for the sport. It's good for some other teams that are going to get more opportunities now. But as far as the sport is concerned, it doesn't do much to, you know, shake the feeling that, you know, smaller budget teams are going to have such a hard time. And it's like, this also does, you know, expose the, you know, we talk about the oil money and things like that, and how some of these teams have giant budgets that in comparison, you know, are not necessarily fair. It's, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting the light that it casts over what's currently going on, because to compete you need money, because, you know, that's how these teams are winning. They're getting,
it's the whole thing is super lame, the way that works. I mean, it's one of the foundational problematic, you know, aspects of this sport. And
well, I mean,
you know, there's no easy way out of it. And
you do
struggle, and
you do something like the NBA does, where you get so much, and then if you go over, you have to give the same amount that you're going over to the pot for the other teams that can't afford it.
Yeah.
You put it, you arbitrate some sort of, cap and say, if you go over feel free to go over the cap, but for every dollar you go over, you're going to give $1 back to for us to spread around the smaller teams.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be good. And I mean, you got to feel for people like this former DS who's, put
by the way,
this,
out of a job.
out of a job, puts all this effort into building this team. I mean, they rose as high as a green jersey in the Tour de France. That ain't nothing. And yeah, then it just all goes away because of some money situations. I don't know. Let's move on.
So there is a growing debate among sprinters that are not liking the Montmartre, and they want it to be a more traditional Champs-Élysées bunch style sprint. And again, it's like, I think we talked about it, especially with the World Championships, that like maybe you do some sort of like one off, one on with sprinters.
That's the easy answer. That's the easy answer for this. We do the Tour de France every year.
Yeah.
You got to throw the sprinters a bone. You know what I mean? It's just it's not fair to them. You know what I'm saying? This is a giant aspect of our sport. It's just almost is arguably as big as the GC aspect of the sport.
Well, and
many of the
argument.
superstars of the sport are right there on the forefront of those sprints. Mark Cavendish was a sprinter. You know what I mean? Like these stories are as big as almost any stories that we get out of this sport, save for the winner of the Tour de France. But beyond that, like, yeah. And so, I mean, Milan-San Remo has become a non-sprinters event. They've lost that. The Tour de France is more geared towards mountainous stages. So, I mean, some of these grand tours, they go in and it's like, you got 4 shots. You know what I mean? I mean, there used to be grand tours where they'd be sprinting 8, 9, 10 days out of the thing. These guys' shots are getting fewer and further between, and I don't blame them one bit. As much as we absolutely adore that Montmartre finish, it's freaking great. But you know what? Give them a shot. Do the traditional course every other year.
Yeah, like I said, I
throw in a third one. I don't know. Like, I'm not married to tradition, obviously, since I'm perfectly fine with throwing in the Montmartre thing. I mean, mix it up.
Right, and they ended in Nice 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly,
it doesn't. It is the Tour de France. It's not the Tour de Paris.
Right.
So and I understand there's something to be said about tradition, but I agree with you. I feel like, especially for sprinters, in the sense that, it's a lot harder for them to get through the 3 weeks. If you're there on the last day and you've made it, like what?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Here's
and
the thing.
The sprint on the Champs-Élysées is awesome. Like, it's cool as hell.
How many, it'll be interesting. So it'll be interesting to see, because we know they're going to do Montmartre again this year. It'll be interesting to see if sprinters drop out before the final day. If you have more sprinters that bail because they're like, "What's the point? We're not going to."
That's true.
That's
true.
And to me, the reward for the sprinters to do all 3 weeks is the fact that you get to it's funny.
Of course.
6 months ago, we are like, this is so great. This is the best thing ever. Hope they never change it. It's funny how you like reel back and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Is it fair to ask these riders to do this for 3 weeks and not give them the pinnacle shot that, this is, because a win on the Champs-Élysées in the Tour de France is an icon moment for your career. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, I feel their pain. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out as we move forward. I mean, we know for 2026 that they are doing the Montmartre finish. This is sort of why this has triggered all of this backlash from the sprinting community, as is their, they're right. I don't really have a problem with them being pissed off about it, and I really think there's an easy solution, which is just.
It's just, and it's like I said, it's the same argument that we had for the World Championships. like, we should almost go one off, one on, give the sprinters one, Plus, I feel like if you did that too, you're going to get other people in, like, some of these teams you're going to see different people competing for these types of things. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see the Olympics come down to a bunch sprint. So
that would be wild. All right.
Matthew Vanderpool will make his return to cyclocross in December. It has now been reported. Everybody's been wondering because he peeled out of pro racing pretty early in the season this year and has been basically non-existent. But his team has announced that before Christmas he will be back on the cyclocross circuit, whipping up some badassery for sure.
Yeah, slaughtering all in his path.
Oh, I'm sure.
Cross, good for Vanderpool.
Yes.
MTB, not good. Stay away from the mountain bikes, man.
Yes, stay with the cross.
You do cross, you can do road. All right.
So,
and
EF has, always, love American team news, but EMF,
you're unbelievable.
Yeah. Thank you. EF signed another rising talent. They stole UAE's development rider Matthias Schwarzbacher. So this is one of the UAE development team riders. This is one of their next men up. One of your Juan Ayuso type replacers. So this is what Vaughters had to say about it. He said, Matthias can really impress in those short time trials, but he's also a super versatile rider. He's extremely strong on the flats and is a very effective sprinter. He was already on my radar well before he won at the Giro this year. So he won the opening stage time trial for at the Giro. I think they call it the Giro Next Gen, the under 23 Giro.
Mm-hmm.
So another one to watch. EF seems to be definitely taking a swing at getting a little younger. So it'll be interesting to see what their year shapes up like in 2026. I'll be really interested to see what the final roster looks like, for that team going into 2026 for sure.
I'm with you.
So that's it. It's a pretty thin news week this week. We had a lot of stuff last week, and this week there just wasn't a lot of stuff.
That's how it's going to be. Well, stay with us. We're going to be right back in just a few to take a ride in the Broom Wagon. All right, we are back. We're taking a ride in the Broom Wagon. Justin, what do you got for us this week?
So I wanted to shout out Lucinda Brand, who set a wild mark this weekend. So Lucinda Brand has had 50, 50 podiums in a row in cyclocross.
In a row?
In a row.
Oh, my God.
So since 2024 at the Benidorm World Cup, Lucinda Brand has not missed a cyclocross podium as she cruised towards her 7th victory of the season and her 3rd this week.
Wow.
Talk about dominance, right?
Totally.
Like 50? Like, I don't even know. I mean, that's...
It's a superlative the likes of which you got to go to a Tadej Pogacar or a Lorena Vivas to get those kind of
but even they don't win
kind of
every single one.
Well, I mean, like that's on par. Like what I'm saying is like that's on par with Pogacar being on the podium of all 5 monuments in the same year.
Yeah. But it's just like to not miss a podium in 50 attempts is crazy.
Yeah.
Top 3 or better in 50 straight events. That's just nuts.
Pretty impressive.
So, but that's my Broom Wagon this week. I was kind of thinking I was going to go one way with it, and then I saw that, and I was like, wait a minute, what? And I dug into the article, and then I read a little bit more about it, and I was just like, this is crazy that you could be that good at something. You know what I mean? To the point, I don't know, man. There's just in racing, it just seems like even like a Tadej Pogačar has times where he what did he finish in Montreal when Lulu won in Montreal? Wasn't he like, I want to say he was like 18th or 30th?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like even he has times when it doesn't suit him, and I don't know.
I mean, it's just insane to never once have a subpar race for 50 straight races is mind-boggling.
It really is. It really is. So, chapeau to Lucinda Brand for her unbelievable 50 straight podiums. All right, what do you got?
I'm just going to briefly mention this new gravel race that Tom Pidcock took a stage in, the Ned Bank Gravel Burn. And just give a shout for gravel racing. We're certainly all very much aware of what gravel racing is. I wish I had more time, more bandwidth to spend more time with these races, because like this thing, it's a brand new race. It takes place in South Africa. It's a 7-day stage race. I mean, it's just completely badass. Like these riders just going out across the African plain on these gravel roads. I mean, it's absolutely wild. It's so beautiful to look at. And this sport is just coming on so strong. And one thing that's really cool about it, as we've spoken about before, is that the U.S. is kind of is ground zero for this emergent sport, which now, top pros like Tom Pidcock are participating in. The biggest event of the year by far is Unbound Gravel. That's in Kansas, of all places. I love it that like Kansas, it has an event that is at the heart of a satellite of the cycling world. You know what I mean? That's just kind of wild. The vibe of this sport is just super cool. Although it's starting to become professionalized, and there's been a big push-pull within like the people who have been into this sport now, the ones who have sort of helped put it on the map, and now there's a professionalism that's starting to creep in, that some of the earlier folks are not crazy about. To me, it still feels like progress, but they're really cool events. The World Championships every year is absolutely awesome. Although, as I recall, we just did the World Championships, and the men's race was not that great. Wasn't it Florian Vermeersch?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of broke away, and nobody was even coming close to him. I feel like the women's race was good, but yeah, you got the Belgian waffle ride in Utah. You've got the what's it called, the Barry Roubaix. I love that name. The world's largest gravel race in Hastings, Michigan, every year. The events are cool too because they offer multiple distances. So like Unbound, for example, it has, I think it's got like a 50 and a 75, but its two biggies are like the 100 and the 200. And sort of like with trail running, I think the premier event is actually like the 100. It's like that's sort of the one that the top people will target, even though it's not the greatest distance. But that makes
it has the most
interesting
renown.
racing as well. Right, exactly. It's got the most renown. So yeah, just a shout out to gravel racing. I know
I can't believe that you forget who won the Women's World Championship. She won everything else this year.
Oh yeah, Lorena Vivas. That's right. That's right. Lorena Vivas. Yeah, go take in a gravel race. It's something that, as much of that is happening in our country. It's certainly something that we could kind of put on the what am I trying to say? the list of stuff that we might like to attend in person. I mean, I am quite sure that we would have a damn fine time if we went to Unbound Gravel as spectators,
I'm sure.
one year.
I'm
And
sure.
there's probably some races even closer to us. So, yeah, well, I guess that's it for me. We will leave it there. That's all for this week. Join us next week for our videography show 2025. We're going to start with a review of our favorite camera shots of the year from pro cycling, and then we'll deep dive on the emergent usage of drone videography in sports. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon for another ride on the team bus. Allez!
The Team Bus is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Allez!